For joining. We're still waiting for a couple people, and I know there's a few of us who can't join. So I'm going to get started. And then for those who can't join or um, just things came up, I'll send out a recording. So anyway,
Okay.
happy Friday, guys. Let's get started. I'm really excited. We're starting module one over for a lot of you guys, but also this is such a good time for many of us who've been through the program, and even for me, because a lot of times when we're having a hard time, we keep trying to find new things to try, this or that. But really, what we need to do is go back to basics, go back to what we already know and do what we know. So it's not about learning, not always about learning new things, but doing what we know and just reiterating, iterating, and reiterating. So, anyway, I'm glad you're here today and just welcome to all the new members. I want to throw this out there to the new members. This is going to feel very overwhelming the first week or two, but you'll find your rhythm. Right now, I want you guys to just focus on trying to do the modules at your own pace throughout the week. The sooner in the week, the better, because then you can have time to implement those strategies and skills. And then come Fridays with your questions. So remember, every week I'll post in our group the Zoom link and also the Google Doc link. And you guys can click on that to submit your question. And even if you don't, you can always ask questions here. So let's jump in. With module one, we talked a lot about radical acceptance and growth. And a lot of the things that we are talking about is going to directly apply to your child, but also to yourself. We go first as leaders. Whatever we want for our child, we have got to model. We've got to embrace and step into that role for ourselves as well. Otherwise, it'll be like standing on shifting sand. Where we're gonna have too many leaky holes in our buckets. So we need to plug up those holes by starting with ourselves. So, what does radical acceptance mean? It means that we are able to accept our reality where we are. Also, accept who our child is, where they are, accept where we are at this moment. We're all doing the best we can. We all have good skills and we are still learning and can do better. Same with our kids. They're doing the best they can and they can do better. So, all of this will getting that foundation down will lead us to growth and change. So, this is why we're starting here. Um, I want to tell a story about Lisa Shanahan. She is a psychologist who went to a monastery or something with monks, and her job was to sweep daily the front foyer where people would walk in. And she would sweep it clean, and then minutes later, people would come in and track more dirt, and then she would have to sweep it again. And then other people would come by, track more dirt, and she got really fed up with this and asked someone, how long do I have to keep doing this? People keep tracking more dirt in. And his reply was, "This is the job given to you right now." And something switched for her then. She realized she could look at this job with resentment, with victimhood. Why do I have to keep doing this? Why me? Or she could reframe that a bit and just tell herself, this is the job that is before me. This is what's required at this moment. And it gave her a sense of acceptance, compassion, humility, but also just accepting her reality, just that radical acceptance in that moment. It's not going to last forever. But when she looked at it that way, she looked at it like, this is my opportunity to serve in this moment. So I want you guys to think about that as it applies to your kids. Even now, we've come such a long way with my family, my own son, and yet there are moments where he'll flip out and throw chairs or have a huge meltdown or name call hit. And my first reaction is, oh, how long do we have to deal with this? And then I stop and I pause myself. I've come to learn that when I make those type of announcements or verbally say those things, it triggers in my brain, pause and redo that, rephrase that. And I've learned, oh, this is the work that needs to be done. We are still working towards our goal long term. And it shifts my mindset to um, embracing that reality. We've come so far and we still have a little bit more ways to go. And it takes intentional practice each time. And so that's just a way that you guys can just start implementing right now. Kim, for example, you have so many wonderful things coming up for you, and yet it's also stressful. things that are exciting and new can also be scary, and there's a
Overwhelming.
overwhelming, exactly, uncertainty, and all those things are um, can lead to a little bit of fear. But also, I want you to realize there's a concept called dialectic where two things can be true. So look at a piece of paper, same thing as a coin. There's two sides of it. It can be true that all the upcoming exciting things for you can be so exciting, and on the flip side, it can also be very scary. And those that's because it evokes the same physiological responses in your body. The um, quickening of your breathing, a little bit of anxiety, releasing those same stress hormones, but at the same time, those are the things that are needed to get us to move, like cortisol, adrenaline. All of that can be released when we're fearing something, but it could also be released when our body's cueing us to help us move into action. And I know you've got your work cut out to move into action. And so part of what we're doing throughout this program, but especially starting off, is the mindfulness and validation piece. That's the next step that was mentioned in module one. So, with that, being mindful of where you are at this very moment, whether it's a life circumstance or where your child is, where you are um, in the season of parenting. We're celebrating a new mom in this group with a new sibling here for her son. We're celebrating someone who has gone through so many hardships, and yet she's in a season of finding her footing again. And so accept those two things. This is really hard. This is really new. And also, this is an opportunity for me to grow through something very challenging and exciting. Um, be encouraged, look at this as an opportunity. Um, so the mindfulness piece is so important because most of us at any moment are 10 steps ahead of us. You're thinking about what you're going to cook for dinner. You're thinking about what next week is going to look like. If you're like me, you're already thinking, oh my goodness, Thanksgiving uh, coming up, friends and family coming into town, holiday festivities, and then there's Christmas, kids out of school. So we're living we're not most of the time we're not living in the moment, we're living in the future, and that's our body trying to control the future, to self-protect, to self-preservation, coping, all of that, which to a degree is needed, but at the same time it doesn't serve us always in the moment, and that's where we can really sabotage ourselves when it comes to helping our kids in the moment. With our kids, they're already, if they're younger especially, they're picking up and co-regulating from us and with us. So any anxiety piece that they're picking up from us is going to be exacerbated in them. So if you notice, where is your child at right now? What are they triggered? What things trigger them? What has the pattern been like for the last 90 days or 30 days? Start really paying attention to all of that. Again, that's mindfulness right there. Um, I want you guys to remember we're going to learn a lot of strategies throughout the program. We're going to start with what it looks like to be mindful and what it looks like to be able to co regulate. Mindfulness starts with, again, being present, paying attention to exactly where you are in that moment. And also look at the five sensations actually of your body. So, like sensory wise, right now at this very moment, what are you smelling? What do you see? What are you touching? Um, what is your body doing? Is it sitting up? Is it lying down? All of those things serve to ground us and to anchor us to this very moment instead of thinking, I wonder what my child is doing right now, or I don't know how my child's going to act when I pick him up, or I wonder if he's getting in trouble right now. All of those thoughts, I get it, are on the back of your mind, but at the same time, they don't serve you in this very moment. So being mindful to that, those your senses, they're all very grounding and can help you in the moment. So there's been times where, for example, my child is having a really big meltdown, and my urge, my bodily sensation, tension, all of that, shallow breathing is telling me to shut it down right now. And that doesn't help. That doesn't help at all. You have to first be mindful and aware of that urge in order to co-regulate with your kid. So what that looks like is taking a pause, grounding yourself with those five senses I just talked about. What do I see right now? My child is losing his stuff. What do I hear? He's screaming. What do I feel in my body? I'm very tense. All of those things are giving your body cues to this very moment. And then fighting that urge to um, shut down or uh, or try to get your child to just distract him very quickly from the meltdown is maybe something that is a short-term strategy, but doesn't help long-term. So noticing that first in your body so that you can kind of bring down that tension a little bit before you help your child will go a long way. You'll go faster and farther. So that might look like taking a moment to breathe and ground yourself, and then approaching your child non-verbally or verbally, and then helping him. And we will get into more specific details now, but let's look at big picture. So something else we talked about in module one was envisioning and empowerment. Again, these are broad uh, foundational pieces. But again, we've got to start there to plug up the holes in the bucket before we can really throw in all the strategies. So when I talked about envisioning, this is so powerful. It really takes a lot of practice. But again, envision for yourself what your goal is and after this program. So part of your homework was to come up with 5 goals for you and your child and your family, and what you want to achieve right now and then also long term. So that might be, I want my child to have no meltdowns throughout a whole day. That could be where you're at and just building that small goal. So that's a short-term goal. Think of a long-term goal. I want my child to feel so emotionally resilient that he or she can tolerate going to school or getting a job and doing well at that job. Or maybe even I want my child to feel so secure with their own emotions that they're able to self-advocate and put healthy boundaries up in a relationship, whether it's in a romantic relationship or at a job. So let's say a boss asks you to overtime, not get paid. You want your child to be able to self-advocate. Um, this is what's appropriate for this for me or whatnot. So short term and long term, you're building all the skills for now and in between and later. So when I talk about envisioning, I want you to think about this. If you can close your eyes and just look 8 weeks from now, what do you see yourself? How do you see yourself showing up for your child? Are you more pleasant or present and playful, connected? Even now with having a big changes in your circumstances, whether it's having a baby, having just moved, um, all of those can be stressful. And 2 months from now, what will it look like after this program, achieving your goals? What does that look like to you? Um, and when you think about what athletes, like the most successful athletes, this is what they do. Football players, before they get on the field, they're closing their eyes, envisioning exactly how they'll catch that football, how they'll move through a play. Um, and I talked about this in module one. Michael Phelps, he envisions his goal so clearly that he's engaging his senses. He is envisioning and feeling the gold medal in his hand, how heavy it is in his hand, what that'll feel like, the cold metal. He's envisioning it so well that he could almost, well, like I said, touch and feel this metal. What does the water feel like against his body? So the cool thing about envisioning is when you do this and you do it thoroughly and consistently, meaning more than once every now and blue moon, your body releases these hormones, these neurotransmitters that go along with that. So again, in module one, we talked about how your thoughts, your body sensations, your behaviors, they all interact with each other. And this is a good example of that. So for example, if I am envisioning such a joyful moment that I've had in the past with my kids, it releases oxytocin, serotonin, all of those are calming and happy hormones. Versus if I choose to worry and think, oh my goodness, what is my kid doing today at school? What's going to happen in his future? All of that worry, it also releases hormones, but these are stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. And so at any given moment, we can pay attention, be mindful of our thoughts, and follow that trajectory. Think to yourself, is this leading me to more calm, I'm sorry, more stress chronically, or is it leading me to a place of hope and empowerment and a sense of capability that I can change my circumstances to some degree? So think about that way. If I was to be so stuck with my kids, big emotions and tantrums, and think, oh my gosh, he's never going to get out of this. We're going to be stuck in this for another hour or two. We're going to behave in a way that is self-preservation or out of fight or flight. We're going to try to control and manipulate our kid in the situation. Versus if we're thinking hopefully and envisioning us moving our child through it in a way that's paced for them, then we're going to feel more empowered. We're going to release those dopamine and those helpful neurotransmitters that causes us to move into action, but in a more effective way and in a way that connects us. So oxytocin, that's a hormone that is released when you feel connected with someone you love. It's the same hormone that's released when a new mom is nursing her child. So really important. You cannot underestimate the power of envisioning there. Let's see. And then, so all those are foundational pieces. Connection before correction. That's such a simple phrase, but just remember that at the very foundation of everything is for you and your child is connection. When we talked about validating in module one, the ultimate goal is connection. Telling is demonstrating to your child, I see you, I hear you, I understand you. And even if you don't understand your child, letting your child know you're seeking to understand him or her. So again, if your child is really wanting to um, have take his skip day in his senior year, and you've already told him, you've missed so many days at school, I really understand you want to, and this is and you need to go today. So that's a way of validating instead of just pushing through, just sorry, you can't, which is very easy for any of us to do. I'll give an example for myself lately. We stopped celebrating Halloween this past year, and my son was, of course, very upset about that. And so it's something we had to validate and we had to get curious and just ask ourselves, okay, if we were in his shoes, how would we feel? And of course, I can empathize. He's not doing the fun hayride that we used to do for our trick or treating, friends, costumes, getting all this abundance of candy. It makes complete sense. So when we're empathizing with them first, then we can validate with more authenticity in a genuine way versus sorry, you can't because I said so, which would be very dismissive. So just throughout this course, we are always going to go back to connection, which comes through empathy, compassion, and validation. And then we'll build on that foundation. We'll build on it using limits, boundaries, because our kids need not just unconditional love, they also need limits. They need healthy boundaries so that they can build their tolerance, resilience, and also enter into the world just feeling capable and not just feeling like they've been coddled their whole lives. Let's see. And then just for those who are new to the program, be prepared because change is hard for all kids, especially kids who are neurodivergent. So if they're old enough, or even if they're young, set them up with this language of letting them know, hey, we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. I'm going to be helping you in a way that that is a little bit different. I'm learning from someone I know, or you might even say, hey, you might hear me talking to you a little bit differently. This is just to help me to connect with you better and help you. This is because some kids, or all of us actually, human behavior, when we have to change something that we have been very used to consistently, then there's an extinction burst, meaning there might be a sudden spike of behaviors that just challenging behaviors just because they're trying with all their might to hold on to what's familiar to them. And all of a sudden something is unfamiliar and they're going to push back on that. So you might expect that for a couple weeks, but also the more you set your child up for that expectation, the easier it'll be for them. Hey, Leetta, glad you're here. We were just talking about an extinction burst and just setting your child up for expectation of doing things a little bit differently over the course of this program. Um, change is hard for kids. And so the more you can set them up with even common language, no worries about being late. Glad you're here. I'm going to send out the recording too. So you'll have the first part. But basically, an extinction burst is something you might see if you've been doing something for a long time, a certain way, and then all of a sudden you're changing it a little bit. Your child will probably try to push back on that. And so just being ready for that, taking a week or two to just notice that will be very helpful. So what you do is just continue to be consistent with what we're teaching you, um, being neutral with your voice, with your body language, but also being firm with this is how things are and this is how we're doing it, of course, in a loving and compassionate way. But we wouldn't let our kids step into something dangerous. This is the same way. Look at it that way. We're building a new habit, a new skill, a new way of connection that long term will be setting them up for success and for you. So again, something I want you guys to do is go back and look at homework for module one, which is review your five or look at your five goals, five short-term goals, five long-term goals. So earlier I said this short-term will be maybe getting into school with fewer meltdowns. Remember, I want to make sure you guys know this is not about all or nothing. We're not going to go from having meltdowns every day this week to all of a sudden no meltdowns, but you might look at it successively, bit by bit. Meltdowns only once per week or once per month, but setting yourself up with those realistic expectations will help you get traction easier and quicker. And then long-term goals for yourself. Do this for your kids at any age. Kim, even with you with an older son, Leetta, even with your son who's younger, what do you want for them long-term? It might be to have a healthy relationship where they're able to set up boundaries that are healthy for them and others. So the sky's the limit here. Just putting those things on paper will sometimes help you guys, help to guide you and then keep you more accountable each day. Let's see. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about neuroplasticity and why this is, I'm so glad you guys are here. So the way our brain develops as in child development is there are a couple periods of synaptic pruning. Basically, all of these nerves in your brain, there's an overgrowth and then there's a pruning. And that's really helpful in sort of like survival of the fittest. You're all these experiences that you have, all of these skills that you've learned, they're being cemented during those periods. So basically, if you drive somewhere every single day, that connection is going to be preserved because you use it all the time. So if you've heard the phrase use it or lose it, this is pretty much exactly what it means. So for you guys, with your synaptic pruning happens all the way to our mid 20s, and that's because that's when our brain reaches full maturity. So right now you guys have the opportunity to teach your kids all these new skills and then continue to practice that so that it does become cemented, especially the younger they are. The younger they are, the more you do this, the more you're forming these habits early. So between 2 to 10 is when there's the most synaptic pruning. So take advantage of this time and really hone in and focus on it. Let's see. So what you train, and even for us as adults, when we are training ourselves in these skills and practicing them habitually, they do become those neurons, they do become connected in our brains and it becomes easier. So like I said earlier, going back to the mindfulness piece, that is something that we're going to need all through our lives. Right now, I'm talking to parents who have done this program already, and we're talking about having to get back to basics. There are some things with parenting is not linear. We're going to have moments where things are going so well, and then all of a sudden the next season in life hits, whether it's puberty, whether it's going off to switching between elementary to middle school to high school, preparing for college, all those life changes. There will be a little bit of a setback and then a propelling forward. So these skills, they will generalize. And I want you guys to really practice what you guys are learning right now, and then ask questions as you go. Because right now, things like mindfulness, validation is going to feel and seem like concepts that are unrelated to parenting. But at the same time, when we slow down and do those things first things first, all of those other skills will stack on top of that and go much further. So, let's see, I want to make sure. So, does anyone have any questions so far?
Is my mic muted?
No, you're on.
Okay. The only question I have is like, I feel like we've had pretty good days. Like everything has been going good. And it's like almost like he's like forcing to have like a meltdown. And I don't really know. It's like, I don't want to say it's like manipulative or fake, but it kind of feels like it.
Mm,
Like last night we went trick or treating and everything was fine. And then we like get out of the car and he just starts like screaming and crying. And so I like take him back in the car, calm him down, and like it's like a light switch. And he's just like, I think if you gave me cold water, I would calm down. So I got him cold water. And he was like, no, you got to put the water to my lips and let me drink it.
mm.
So then I let him drink it. And he was like, all right, I'm calm. Let's go.
Wow.
So I don't like know how to handle that.
Well, let's get curious. All right, let's think about the three C's: connection, which you did, curiosity, collaboration. So let's move from connection to curiosity. What could have caused him to react that way? Was it all of a sudden stepping from a calm, quiet car out into the open where all of a sudden things are unstructured, big, a lot of stimulation? Do you think that might have been the case? Sort of overwhelmed by all that?
Yeah, I think it's like any transition, like even though that was like a good thing and he was excited for it, I think just like any transition. And then like once he was fine, he calmed down. But this isn't just like transitions. Like sometimes in the morning, we'll be having like a great morning. And like yesterday morning, everything was going good. We were like ready to go. He dropped my phone and I was like, uh-oh, hand it to me. And he like started fake crying and like, oh, I dropped your phone. You're gonna be mad at me, blah, blah, blah. I was like, it's okay, it was an accident. And then he was like, no, it was on purpose. And I was like, oh, okay, thanks for being honest. And then he was like, I'm mad. And then he just starts screaming at the top of his lungs. But he's
Mm,
like smiling. Like he's like, it's like almost he's playing.
mhm.
And then he was like, I'm having big feelings, mom. I need you to hold me. Like, and so this has been like the last week or so. It's like we aren't having any meltdowns. We aren't having any issues really. Like, except for occasionally drop off at school, but that is what it is. But
Mm, okay.
no, does that make sense?
Yes, it does. A couple things to think about. Transitions are very hard. I can agree with that. I mean, I could see that too, especially with young kids. Let's just break that down. Hey, Crystal, glad you're here. Um,
Hey.
so I'll send out a recording later on, but I did a little bit of teaching and then just answering questions, and we'll circle back there. I'll first let me acknowledge the wins. Like, how awesome is it? Like in that moment with the car, getting back in the car to say, "I need some water. I think it'll help me calm down." And even if he said, "I need you to put it on my lips," um, bringing it down, and then he was ready to come out. That's a self-advocacy piece there. He came out, was overwhelmed, and noticed, I need something for my body, and coming back in, having water and coming back out. Let's just praise that. And something you can do is notice for him later out of the picture. Hey, I noticed earlier when you got in the car, your body was like, really big. And you can even do that motion. It was so big. You wanted to get back in the car. Hey, that was cool. You noticed you need to get back in the car. And also, it was cool. You noticed your body needed some water, some cold water to settle down. And then I noticed when we came back out, you were ready. So just kind of like with that curious tone, curiosity is a kid's language. Look at babies, how when they have something to play with, what do? They keep dumping stuff out. They see what happens, sort of that way. So engage him in the same way using curiosity, a curious tone, noticing. Again, that goes to the mindfulness piece that we learned about in module one. Mindfulness means you're observing and you're helping your child to observe. Oh, I noticed your body needed this, and then you did this. Cool. Or you might even observe, I noticed your body needed this. You weren't sure. And so you needed help and you asked me for help. So going to that piece where he dropped the phone and he said, I did it on purpose. You can reflect back. Reflective language is also being mindful. You're helping him to observe, helping him to feel seen, heard, and understood, even if there's a piece that is very tempting to assume that's manipulative. Young kids at that age aren't generally tending to be manipulative. They need to keep a secure attachment with you because that is just basic
Hmm.
survival. So in that moment, you might even just reflect, oh, you dropped the phone. Oh, you're telling me you did it on purpose. Hmm. You really need to tell me that you did it on purpose. Okay. Uh, and then moving through that and again being mindful when you're truly mindful slowing it means you're slowing down, you're connected to that very
Hmm.
moment. You're connected to your sensation of where are you, where's my body in space, how am I feeling, my temperature, am I moving through this at a pace that will keep him at a neutral pace or slowing down even more. um, so again with dropping the phone, it just seems like a connection seeking piece. And I noticed that with him just needing that connection piece. So something you can do once you validate that, saying, oh, I noticed you needed to say you did it on purpose. Okay. So you're not saying that's good or bad. You're not reassuring him. You're not feeding into that anymore. But after that, if you have his attention, you might help him move through that by saying, you can tell me you need, um, you can tell me you need me, or you can tell me you need my attention. If you really think he did that, quote unquote, on purpose, or if he was saying he did that for a reason. So, what I'm saying is, after that connection piece where you validated, getting curious to seeing what he really needs, and in that moment, if it was connection, more connection, then building in that collaboration piece, which is that third C. So, connection, curiosity, collaboration. That collaboration piece is letting him know you can, and then fill in the blank. You can let me know you need my attention. Does that sound
Okay.
like something that he was trying to do was get your attention or getting a rise out of you?
Yeah, I definitely think that's what it is.
Mm, yeah. And a lot of times with kids who feel like they're not seen or heard, which I don't doubt this at all. You give him such great attention and you're very connected with him. You love him. What they'll do is they'll try to act out even more to get seen and heard even more. So if you maintain your composure, meaning neutral voice, neutral tone, neutral nonverbal language, body is still
Hmm.
calm, then you're letting him know is that behavior is not going to sway you one way or another. So even if in that moment it's an opportunity for him to learn in the future, he could see that behavior is not going to get a rise out of my mom. My mom's going to respond the same way as if I was to tap her on her shoulder and say, "Hey, mom." So, are
Makes
there other?
sense.
Hmm?
I said that makes sense.
Yeah. It is something that we're going to just keep on reiterating and just practicing. So hopefully that makes sense. And yeah, um, I do see just the default to really big emotions to sort of get a need met. So what you're doing is you're trying to dampen that default and build a new default, which is going to be very different from what he's currently doing.
Yeah. And like I said, and like you mentioned, it is way easier to bring him down because it's not like I'm like actively having to get him out of flight and fight. It's just like kind of like moving from like one thing to the other.
Mm,
But still, like, I'm just trying to figure out like the why, like why is he like resorting to doing that?
mm,
Because like
So,
I do try to spend a lot of time with him so
mm,
that he doesn't need to do that.
yeah, yeah. So much of what we're going to be doing is helping them to learn their own body sensations and their own physiological sensations and their needs. So there's one thing you're doing great, the validation, giving him an extra attention. I would see the growth edge as now giving him the space to deal with his own emotion. He's young, so that's going to be very gradual and it's going to be very paced. So you guys are really busy. You've got school all day. In the evenings, you guys have extracurricular activities. I'd really love to see you guys start building in quiet time, like 10, 15 minutes
Mhm.
somewhere where and he can sit and read or he can sit. I know you put together a sensory box for him. I wouldn't get put like a ton of stuff in there, but just something that he can engage in quietly away from you for 10 minutes or so. And that
Okay.
way he's not always seeking you for needing to be calm, but he's learning to self-soothe in that way. And he's again, 4 and 5 is when they're learning, starting, 4 is when they're really starting to learn to do that. But it takes time and practice. So even if you start with 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day, you sitting a few feet away and then gradually each day moving a little bit further away, and then building that in because I think a lot of it is just an overwhelmed nervous system. So building in that
Mhm.
quiet time, just like us, we need time to decompress. Our nervous system is always calibrating from high stress to trying to settle itself. And when we're always high stress on the go, it's very hard to settle ourselves. So we're trying to find that move closer and closer to the middle of the balance there.
That makes sense. So do you think that like he's in too many after school activities?
I would say start paying attention to that. Something I talk a lot about in the next module, we'll learn more about this, but start documenting, writing down, noting what all you guys are in. How does he do on a week or two where you guys have fewer activities? Either way, start building in proactive, quiet time um, between school and the extracurricular activity, or just when you get home in the evening from all of that and keeping it very low stimulating. So I guess what I'm asking is that's something for you to decide and to also you have to have data to decide whether this is working or not. So just start documenting and just look at it like I'm going to start here and in a few weeks I'm just going to see how things are going. If he continues to struggle a lot, maybe look at taking one thing off my plate, but you can always decide when to add or take away. I know like sometimes you have to pay for a whole month of whatever, gymnastics, cheer, but it's something you can decide later on in the future. You don't have to decide right now. That makes sense.
That makes sense. Sorry, I had a call.
Oh,
One
you're
second.
fine. You're fine. So real quick, Crystal, what I was sharing earlier was just a brief rundown. Um, the more you can sort of proactively talk to your child about, hey, we're doing something new. I may be using some different words with you to help you. I'm learning different ways to help you. Then just giving that brief, simple preface, just like, hey, something's changing, might help them quite a bit. Just because our kids can have a hard time with change, even if it's small changes. So just thought that would be helpful. Just noticing if you see what we call an extinction burst in their behavior. For example, if they have not been used to a lot of limits and now we're starting to slowly add limits, you might see them pushing back and things like that. But just with each of our calls, don't stress out too much. I know that the first week or two may be overwhelming, but also you'll get your groove and rhythm as we go along. So recordings will always be sent out if you miss or a part of it or all of it. So feel free to ask questions anytime.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Do you, Crystal, Crystal, have any questions over what you've learned or just in general, anything?
No, no, not yet. Not yet.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, it was good for the refresher and helped bring back a lot of the things that I had already learned. It
Mm,
eventually becomes a muscle memory, like, but sometimes I do forget, of course,
yeah,
especially in the moment. But and it's nice to have you because I can always message or call you and say, hey, this is what we got going on, and you can always let me see what
yeah,
I'm missing. Because sometimes
yeah.
in the moment I miss a lot, and sometimes I forget to
Mm,
recognize my own feelings and how that may affect my son in that moment too. My reaction, how it could be, until how it's making him feel in the moment. Because I'd get frustrated. Things have gotten much better with me and Josh. And
yeah.
every now and then we still have our little moments, but um, learning how to be playful with him, because
Mm,
and giving him that space to feel how he's feeling and to
yeah.
know that I acknowledge that. He comes, like I said, he comes and talks to me more, because
Mm,
he's a senior and he'll
mm,
tell me about things, or if I upset him, if I don't let him do something, he's very vocal now
yeah.
with that. And but the fact that he's talking to me where he didn't used to, so that's a huge win for us. Even with his delays, he's able to convey
Yeah.
stuff now because I give him that space and I tell him he has every right. And then if I feel frustrated, he knows if I tell him we need a break and let's come back, he'll go and take a break and come
Mm,
back and discuss it later.
yeah.
So the refresher is always good. So thanks, Caroline.
You're welcome. I'm just have to say I'm so proud of you and I'm so proud of you both because you've put in a lot of work just over this past year and just been consistent. And I know all of us we fall off the wagon sometimes and it's just a matter of getting back on. And what I've tell myself is when I'm slipping and I can tell everyone around me is dysregulated, it's easy to look outward, but I'm like, okay, look inward. And then I do notice for me pieces where I'm slipping. And so my phrase is get your head back in the game, Caroline. And so for you guys, anchor yourself, find one thing that anchors yourself. With our practice in module one, mindfulness and validation, for me, what I picture is a big pause button. So in those moments when things feel so overwhelming, so stressful, Crystal's having a new baby here. She's juggling a lot of different things. Just in those moments, it's just I picture a big pause sign right in front of me. And I'll just tell myself, there's that compassion piece. This is really, really hard, and we are going to move through it. And it takes 1 or 2 minutes, or even just 30 seconds, but just that pause button will help us to get our footing and get grounded again. Um, again, that mindfulness piece, just keep coming back to that. And if you haven't finished with module one, go back and look at the examples of how you can practice mindfulness. It really does go a long way and it will help you learn even a lot about yourself with parenting. um, Everyone in this room has had trauma. I've talked a little about you guys, or I've talked to you guys enough, you guys have shared with me enough to know we've all had trauma. And unless we're mindful of that, unless we're self-aware, we're going to parent from that trauma. And an example for me is growing up, if I didn't do things just right, then there was heck to pay. So the way I parent my child sometimes, if I'm not mindful of this, is out of perfectionism. For me, it's not just for him to do what I tell him to do, but it's that fear that if he doesn't do what he's supposed to for other adults, then he will be harmed. And so I want you guys to think about this is not just gentle parenting. This is very holistic. It's very self-aware of not just your child but yourself. We parent from how we were parented. We parent from our past experiences, from our trauma. And so every interaction with your child, whether it's negative, quote unquote, or positive, is for a purpose. And if it is quote unquote negative, it is an opportunity to learn about your child or yourself and parent differently. So ask yourself in those moments, just notice what feelings are coming up for you, what body sensations, and ask yourself, whatever thought is in your head, is it true? So for your child, is it true that he's manipulating me? Is it true that he cannot handle the situation by himself? And then reframe that. how can this be good for us in this moment? And again, I will tell you the very same struggles that I had with my son 3 years ago, where I thought I was just going to have, I don't even know what, I just couldn't handle it at that moment, is the very thing that serves me now to help me to serve you guys. So parenting, that dialectic we talked about earlier, how there's two sides to a coin, two sides to a piece of paper. The very struggle you're going through in parenting is going to be the very thing that is the opportunity for you guys to grow and become connected over. And I know that sounds very hard right now, but write that down somewhere, put it in the back of your mind. And when you, the next time you have a win or a celebration or something that you're just like, oh my gosh, we did this, remember that, write it down, anchor it, make sure you cement it, because your mind is always going to go to the negative first. It's going to go to, oh my gosh, why are we still dealing with this thing? Versus, oh my gosh, we just did this hard thing. We made it. We did it. And then keep doing that. You're training again your nervous system to look and be grounded in the positive versus always reverting to fight or flight and fear. When we go there often, we will parent from rigidity, from fear, from uncertainty, and we'll just keep spinning our wheels. We will not make progress that way. So that is so important. I can't stress that enough. Just one more thing I was going to say. Oh, um, just for your homework this week, ladies, what I really, Kim knows this, but what I really ask of you guys, not for me, but for you guys and for each other, is post what you've learned either through their modules or from this call, even if it's one aha moment, like, oh my gosh, I learned something I didn't know, or oh, I applied this concept and this is what happened. It worked, or maybe it didn't work. Here's what I'll do next time. When you engage in the community that way, then other people learn from you, or you learn from other people, and that's so powerful. That's how you get to moving faster and making progress, versus reading a book or just listening to the module and not implementing. So after this, I want you guys to go to our private group, post something that you learned, or post a question, or post a win, anything that you are celebrating, that you were not expecting. So all of that, we're basically just getting traction, and getting momentum. So an object in motion stays in motion, object at rest stays at rest. So this is the beginning here. Notice that we're in November and December, probably the two busiest months of the year. And so there's no better time than this to start practicing your mindfulness, envisioning, now and then for the new year. What do you want next year to look like? Do you want a more calm and peaceful home? Do you want to feel more empowered as a parent, moving through each morning, each day more confidently? All of that, again, will release those transmitters and hormones to help your body to move through those same actions that will help you guys. So do that for me. Don't forget to do your homework. And if you're brave enough, post your goals in the group. Let us see what they are, and I'll do the same. Let's see. I see your message, Leah. Yep, that's fine. And no problem. All right. Does anyone have any questions? Do you guys have a win or celebration you want to share for the week before we hop off?
I have a little something that just happened. Sorry, we're at a coffee shop. Can you hear me pretty well?
I think so.
Okay. Almost a month. Sorry, God, everyone's looking at the baby. Sorry. So I was making a phone call and I got frustrated with the company I was talking to, and Asher heard me and I was like, "Hey, I was like, Mommy's frustrated," and he's like, "Well, like why?" Like he was asking questions and just kind of noticing, kind of like because I was actually kind of sort of losing my patience with him a little too. So of course he was getting impatient, but he'd have kind of like just kind of read the room and kind of figured it out. So I don't know, that's a really big thing for him. So that's just our little win for today.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that. Like I was sharing with the girls earlier, awareness is the very first step. Self-awareness and then awareness of others. So that's awesome. Good start. Thank you for sharing. Lieta, also, thank you. Yes, his first cheer showcase was amazing. That's so neat. Thank you for sharing. Yes, I know he was very nervous and he did it. That's amazing. Yeah, Liam had his first cheerleading showcase and he was nervous and he was scared and he did it. And it's not about perfectionism, but it was about doing something you're nervous about, moving through that discomfort and scary emotion, and still doing it at a place in a way that was doable for him. So awesome, very good. Um, and I'll share a quick win as well. So we stopped celebrating Halloween this past last year, and that's been really hard for my kids because they enjoy the candy, they enjoy dressing up, the festivities, and instead we call it a Fitzsimmons Fall Festival. And so we just did, they still dressed up in their costumes. We just had a fun dinner and then a scavenger hunt around the house to kind of get their treats or however. And we did this just because that's something that was something that we're doing differently, just because of our values. And anyway, so our kids, they looked on the calendar and when they saw I had scratched out Halloween and put Fitzsimmons Fall Festival over them, one of them had scratched that out and replaced it with Halloween, and then had scribbled all over the calendar and then drawn in like ghost and all these things where that space is. And it was so funny, I had to kind of laugh about it, but also remember, again, that connection, curiosity, collaboration piece. The validation for them is this is really something that was really fun for them, something they really enjoyed. Um, Instead of correcting, hey, we're not doing it, so just stop, whatever. But after that, they were able to move through that disappointment and still enjoy a really good time. And even though they're still a little bit, disappointed about not celebrating the way we used to, they were able to tolerate that change and move through it and still have fun. So that was a big win for us. And I share this because I know that transitions or changes, or even in the moment, what you see in front of you seem like at face value, if that's exactly how it is. But I want you to remember before the thing that happens, there's always a contemplation period. So, Leanna, earlier you shared that Liam had a hard time as soon as he got out of the car for Halloween. There's a contemplation period between getting out that our kids do not have the skill to do yet, and they will have it the more we build insight, the more they learn to self regulate. So, for example, um, this is a grown up example here. When I'm on my way home, I'm ready to go home. I'm tired. And if my husband calls and say, hey, can you stop at the store to get this? I about have a tantrum and a meltdown myself because I'm like, no, I want to come home. And after a while, on a few minutes later, I'm usually like, okay, yeah, fine, I can go to the store. So what happens is that it's very jarring to transition from this is what I'm thinking, this is what's actually happening. So that contemplation period that happened between my husband's request and then actually going to do the thing, um, is sort of a skill that we're learning throughout our life. And so just remember there isn't the transition piece, even if he is having a hard time starting a transition or during the transition, look at it like we're just going to pace this so that he has time to contemplate this transition, this change, or this shift. So it's not always a physical transition, but it's also a emotional, cognitive, and behavioral transition to stop this thing, whether it's moving from um, the comfort of being with my mom in her car to now I'm moving into school or I'm moving into a very busy yet fun festivity coming up. So I just remember give space for that contemplation period, build insight for that contemplation period again through validation, through reflective language. So let's see. Absolutely, you're right. The more anxiety you have or worse, the more he can feel it. Yep. And again, that goes to how we are wired as human beings. We are wired um, through connection for survival. So back in our hunter-gatherer days, we lived in pods of like 30 groups of 30 people. If one person starts running, they're all running. Even now we do that. It's called mirror neurons. We respond to someone based emotionally on their emotions. So yes, We are wired to pick up on each other's emotions and also mirror that. So yes, this is the whole purpose for module one here. Thank you, Lieta, for stating that. Being mindful, what is our body doing right now? How does our stomach feel? Liam has expressed stomach aches a lot. So even for us, how do our shoulders feel? I notice tension right away. And that's when I know to start doing my deep breathing, because it doesn't help me in the moment or my son in the moment when I am rushing him through something, rushing myself through something. So same concepts here. Yes. But yeah.
Thank you so much. That all makes sense. And it was nice to get to hear everybody's wins.
Yeah, absolutely. There, just, throughout these upcoming weeks, I don't want you guys to be shy. Post your wins, send me questions. If something doesn't make sense in the modules, or if you hear something in the module that clicks and falls in place, again, put that out on our group meet so we can have more dialogue. So think about it like practice. The more we practice, the more we think about something, the more we ponder on it, the more it'll make sense, and the more we'll start responding to our kids in that way. I mean, at first, any behavior change takes a lot of intention. If I'm driving to a new job, I have to look at GPS for like the first 3 months, but over time it gets easier because we're practicing it more. Same concepts here. It's that neural plasticity. We're strengthening that pathway. So think of it that way. And yeah, I'm proud of you guys. Congratulations for being here. And I'm excited. I'm really excited for you guys.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
Yeah, thanks. You guys have
Thanks, you too.
Thank you. Have a good weekend. Bye.
bye, guys.
Bye. Bye.